Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. And good morning, I say, because I mean, you guys already know, you've seen what happened yesterday. We had a correction of about 10%, a little over 10%. That's over $4,000. And so we're going to be looking at what happened, trying to understand a little what the situation is. And anyway, let's go ahead and get started right away and see what we can expect today with support, resistance, and all that. So as you can see, again, we had our falling wedge here. And so yesterday we had this huge correction, and you can see that we've fallen under the falling wedge. You can see we did not, and this is something that I mentioned already a few times, not just recently, but in previous videos, where I say, currently in the market, these patterns do not perform as they should. We did not reach the target price, as you can see. And not only that, but of course the price, completely crumbled after this. So again, these patterns are not playing out the way they should, or at least the way they usually do. You can see our resistance line here. We had a breakout, and then we stayed above the 100 EMA line for a little bit, but then immediately the market collapsed. And you can see that one of the biggest reasons, of course, is the traditional markets also had a almost 5.5% correction yesterday. And we're talking about the Nasdaq here, so this is not just any market here. And I can show you later also the S&P 500, so we can have a look at that as well. But here on the 4-hour chart, you can see this. So of course, we had a big, massive correction here. We went back down to our support level, and this is the best case scenario that we stay there. If not, you can expect the price dropping to $12,215, which is the next support level. One thing, however, that at least for me is, and I say this carefully, a bit of good news is that we did not push any lower. I mean, if the best case scenario today would be that from here we form a double bottom, and then the price goes back to previous levels. That would be the best case scenario, and of course that would also help Bitcoin stabilize and also move up a bit. But there's really not a reason that I see why that would happen, unfortunately. I mean, we had a pump here of 5% and then a correction of 7%, totally erasing the gains that we have done with that pump. So, and we can see that also here in the smaller time frames, the 15-minute time frame. Same thing here, a little bit of a sell-off here, and then immediately here, this liquidation candle, where massively people thought, okay, this is it. And you can see a lot of stop losses got triggered, and that's why basically it was a free fall candle. And you can see this also in the books, where there was really not any interest for anybody to come in here and try and buy, because I assume, okay, if we do have a drop, then eventually, there's going to be a big bounce, but that could, bring the price back up. But that did not happen. And the question there is, or the answer to that is, because there's no volume that came in at this point. And for that, we can turn on this indicator here for the volume. You can see a lot of volume coming out, and then immediately after that, not a whole lot of volume comes in. Then volume goes out, and then no volume at all comes in. Basically, it's static. And so you see that also here previously, or previous to that, before the markets open, there's really no volume whatsoever that comes in. Then the traditional markets open, and then what happened? You have some of the action that you saw yesterday. Then after that, there's really nothing going on. And you can apply that all throughout, the timeline previous to today, where the same pattern applies. When the markets are closed, the traditional markets, Bitcoin, no volume whatsoever. Then they open, and then you see there's action going on with Bitcoin. Then they Close again, same thing. So you can see really, and this is my recommendation, that you check out these indicators, that you look out for volume, that you look out and see what happens when the traditional markets open, that you keep your attention fixed on that as well. So here again on the 1 hour chart, you see right now we are basically consolidating, and I don't expect that we're going to move massively to the upside, because you see we have the EMA lines above us providing a lot of resistance. So when the markets open today, I expect that the price could drop even more, at the very least back to this low here. And in worst case scenario, that we continue dropping to reach this previous low at $34,000 more or less. And even in the worst case scenario, then go back to revisit this previous low down here at around $33,000. So you can see that this support line did not hold. We can confirm it as support. And right now, of course, we can get rid of that, because as you can see, we find ourselves way below that level. So $37,700 is the best that we could hope for, that we get above that line. If not, you can expect prices dropping, as I mentioned. And you see this level here was very good support, and now hopefully we could turn it into support again, but it could be very well that it becomes resistance, and that's definitely a possibility. Again, bringing the price to our worst case scenario, which would be at around, again, $33,000, and maybe even $30,000, which would be this previous low over here. Now, one thing to see here, or at least keep in mind, especially on the daily chart, is that this is our worst case scenario area down here, which is of course a possibility. And if we get down to that area, then bears get an opportunity to bring the price even lower, of course, to back down to 30,000. But you see our 800 EMA line, which is this white line here. It's a line that we, like here, for example, we were under it for a brief period of time right here. Then you see the big drop below it during our Corona crash here in the middle. And then right now, as you can see here, we did touch it a couple of times, or maybe one time here, almost touched it here. And right now we could drop back down to that level. If we do, we're talking about $35,888 more or less. Of course, that could change depending on the time, because of course the line keeps on moving. But do keep an eye out for the 800 EMA line. Now let's go over and take a look at Ethereum, which in comparison to Bitcoin, it's performing more stable currently. You see, yes, we had a drop as well in the price. However, we went under our 2,754 support level, but we did find support over here at $2,710, which is very. I mentioned that this is an important level in the previous videos. You see, we pierced quickly this level, but then recovered and went back up to this area here. So we're playing in a very tight range right now of about a little less than 2%. If Ethereum manages to go back to 2,815, and then from there is able to break that resistance, it could move very quickly to $2,880 more or less. It could even form a V formation, and Bitcoin could do that as well. But of course, and this is the one thing that you have to save and brand on your brain, that all depends on how the markets perform when they open today. Very, very, very important. And Sidor Ali, thank you so much for subscribing. I guess you subscribe while we're recording this video. But anyway, so very, very important that we pay attention to these levels here. Now, a couple of news articles. The first one being here, the Binance is now part of the investment pool that Elon Musk brought together for acquiring Twitter. They've invested $500 million in Twitter. And so here the important thing is, of course, as you know, Binance is the biggest crypto platform exchange platform in the world. In fact, they recently received a license to have operations in France. And so I don't think that it's by coincidence that Elon decided to bring these guys on board. So there could be some connection here between cryptocurrencies and Twitter. Now, a bit of bad news, and that is the EU seems to be headed towards a regulating, or maybe not even that, but watching very closely every single aspect of the crypto sector. They're proposing new ideas and new laws for keeping track of every single transaction up until recently, maybe even up until the start of this week. There was some idea floating around that if a transaction was above 1,000 euros, then it would have to be reported by the exchanges. But now they're saying that every single transaction has to be reported regardless of the amount. And so here the question, of course, is how is that going to work at all? All that data, the massive amount of data that's going to be generated and is going to have to be analyzed, is going to be controlled by the governments. And who's going to do that? How is that going to take place? Who is going to make sure that all the data is kept in order and kept safe and private? There's so many logistical problems here that makes you wonder what the deal is. Also interesting is this is the interest that the EU has in cryptocurrencies as far as regulating them does not take place in the regular traditional markets. There, the limit is $10,000 or 10,000 euros or more. If a transaction is of that level, then it needs to be reported, and only if it's thought that it could be used for money laundering. So who knows? I'll be interested to hear from you guys any feedback, any ideas and comments as to why you think that is, why the EU is so interested in regulating and keeping an eye on cryptocurrencies. But I personally don't think this is what caused the drop yesterday. In fact, I definitely don't see it as being a reason for that. Anyway, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.